Hi, welcome, and thank you for joining us today for a WeSys webinar. We're so pleased to have Amina here to be discussing a day in the life of SOC, a woman's perspective. My name is Lynn Dome, and I'm WeSys Executive Director. We often go by our acronym WeSys, W-I-C-Y-S, as in We Sisters, and that's exactly what we are. We're a cyber sisterhood. And so the WeSys organization is a 501c3 member-based nonprofit. We have over 5,000 members in 70 countries. We have 37 professional affiliates, 130 student chapters, and our mission is to recruit, retain, and advance women in cybersecurity. And we do so by creating opportunities. Since we're a member-based organization, we have this incredible online member forum where all our members can network and connect together. We also have special interest groups in that member forum, such as Latinas in cybersecurity, neurodiversity in cybersecurity, even cybersecurity law or compliance. We're all about cultivating a community within a community. In addition to that, we have many different skill development training programs, such as a security training scholarship made possible by Google. Applications for that will be opening up again in July 8th. We also have AWS learning series for beginner, intermediate, and advanced members. We have gamified cybersecurity challenges made possible by Target, and CyberStart license code made possible by the SANS Institute. In addition to many, many more skill development training programs on the roadmap for 2021. We have scholarship grants and awards to our annual conference, which is coming up September 8th through the 10th in Denver, Colorado. The registration will be opening up for that conference June 28th at 10 a.m. Central Time. And I say 10 o'clock Central Time for you all to please mark your calendars because registration typically sells out in less than a day. We have many different speaking and media opportunities for our community members, a job board plus where our strategic partners recruit from year round, and all our members can update their profiles and upload their resumes to get recruited from. We participate in market research, also have leadership summits in addition to virtual and in-person career fairs. We have a Veterans and Military Spouse Assistant Program, a Veterans Apprenticeship Program, in addition to a Speakers Bureau and a Mentor-Mentee Program. In our Mentor-Mentee program, that's designed to upskill and up-level women no matter where they're at in their careers, preparing them for their next level of advancement in cybersecurity. Right now, we have a 12-month cohort session, and we have 707 mentees and 185 mentors. Our applications for our next mentor-mentee cohort will be opening up in August, and we're really pleased that Workday, the strategic partner of ours that's hosting this webinar today, is also going to be sponsoring the infrastructure for us to maintain that mentor-mentee program. So we really appreciate their contributions in so many ways. And we owe all the WeSys thanks to our strategic partners, AWS, Bloomberg, Carnegie Mellon, Software Engineering Institute, Cisco, Facebook, Lockheed Martin, Microsoft Optum, AbbVie, Google, JP Morgan, Chase & Company, Nike, SentinelOne, Workday, Dell Technologies, Envestnet, Flatiron, Fortinet, Haystack, Here Technologies, the Home Depot, IBM, MITRE, Oak Ridge National Lab, Palo Alto Networks, SANS Institute, SAP, Smooth Stack, Spear Tips, Starbucks, and before I go ahead and get on over, oh, it looks like my slide isn't. We'll just do a little bit of housekeeping here. I would encourage everyone to please ask a lot of questions during the event. And also you could put it in the bottom of your page. There's a availability there for you to put that in your chat. In addition to that, connect with us on LinkedIn and social media, and be sure to tweet your key takeaways. I'll be sharing at the bottom of your screen our Twitter handles, and we'd love for you to tag us all. So if you haven't done so already, please go to WeSys.org and subscribe to our newsletter, join us as a member, and pay attention to all the opportunities that lie ahead due to that membership. And also connect with us on social media. We're on Facebook. We have a Facebook group, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce Amina from Workday. And Amina, I'll have you take it away from here.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the people all around the globe. Thanks for tuning in and listening to this webinar today. Let me share my presentation with you. So let's get started. Just a second. All right. So let me first introduce myself. I am Amina and I work as a cybersecurity analyst at Workday. And I have been working here for a little over 2 years now. And in this webinar today, I'll take you through my journey into security and do a deep dive into the life of SOC from my perspective. So, for those of you who are not familiar with what SOC means, it is a centralized function within an organization, which includes people that use processes and technology to continuously monitor and improve an organization's security posture while preventing, detecting, analyzing, and responding to cybersecurity incidents. Now, by the end of this webinar, you will have learned about the day to day activities in a SOC, why it is a great starting point in cybersecurity, and how to acquire the skills that will help you grow in this field. So, let's get started with the agenda for today. So, in the first step or the first part of the webinar, you will get to know about my background as I answer these three questions: why, how, and what. You will get to know how you can map your skills better to start into cybersecurity. And as we move forward, we will address the second part of the session. We will discuss the components of SOC, that is, people, process, and technology. You will get to experience a day in the life of SOC with me, with my perspective. And in the end, we will have a look at the opportunities and challenges that come along the way while working in security operations centers and the lessons learned. Now, I'd like to take you back to my journey where I come from, how I started into security. So I was born and brought up in India in a city called Chandigarh, and it's in the northern part of India and is also known as Green City or the City Beautiful. So after graduating and completing my bachelor's of computer science and my master's in business administration, I joined a leading private bank as a customer relationship officer. And I worked for the bank for a couple of years. And at that point, I realized that banking was not my cup of tea. I always had an edge and inclination towards information technology given my bachelor's in computer science background. So I started applying for roles aligned to my interests, and which landed me into a role of software quality analyst in a small IT company in Chandigarh. I worked in that role for an year, and soon after, I got an opportunity to work as a digital project coordinator for one of the leading digital marketing companies in Australia. I did it for 2 years and enjoyed the opportunity to work with a culturally diverse team. Now, fast forward 2016, I had my first kid, my baby girl. I moved to New Zealand knowing that the country is known for its diverse culture, and also had to pursue diploma in information technology, which had a subject called cybersecurity. And I had a keen interest towards cybersecurity then. It became my goal to find a job which helped me harness these learning and develop my career within this field. Now, in 2017, I started working as a cybersecurity analyst for one of the known internet service providers here at New Zealand. Following that, I joined Workday. And while working in the field of cyber, I noticed that there is a huge gender imbalance today, that there were far less females in cyber than males. So I started encouraging and sharing my knowledge with other women in IT and found women mentoring women in security in New Zealand, which is a small group of working professionals and students that help support each other to grow in the field of cybersecurity. I'm also part of the VIBE, that is value, inclusion, belonging, and diversity at Workday. And the VIBE initiatives involve leading and engaging in activities that focus on creating a culture where all workmates feel accepted, included, and valued for their uniqueness. We have recently launched Shield, for which I am also a member, which is a Workday community that inspires, supports, and celebrates women in security and our allies who want to support this effort. I also intend to give back to the community by volunteering for not for profit organizations like OMG Tech and Code Club Otorewa, and also make a difference. And these organizations provide tools and resources to the children to raise awareness about coding and STEM education. Now, lot many people ask me this question, that why SOC? Like, why was it that I chose to be into cybersecurity? And I liked telling stories and taking them back to my college days. So let me start with, let me take you back to my college days where I was studying everything information technology. That was during my bachelor in computer science engineering times, and I had no idea about cybersecurity. And I when I think about it, I feel, oh gosh, like I didn't even know what cybersecurity is back then. So back in those days, we had computer classes with MS-DOS prompt, and everything looked black and white with a blinking cursor on it. And I'm sure most of us back from that era might be able to relate to that. And the professor used to show us those NTFS partitions on the computer, but I was more interested in how it all worked. And back in those days, I enrolled myself to lots of programming languages tuitions that I possibly could, and started with object oriented, OOPS concepts, Java and PHP, and a lot more. Soon the learnings that started to fade away because I couldn't apply them to the real life cases or scenarios, real life jobs. So I also enjoyed learning subjects like machine learning and algorithms. And I still remember my exam time in the college, and report writing seemed quite innate in me as I wrote relatively long responses to the questions, thinking that, I'll be considered as a most intelligent student. And well, certainly, I passed with great scores in my college. Now, fast forward 2009, it was time for me to do my master's, and I wanted to learn project management skills in line with my career goals. I enjoyed presenting and, as always, flagged my interest in any leadership opportunities that became known. My teachers were very impressed and also liked my confidence. And I continued to be very curious and process oriented throughout my student life. While looking back, I think it was just inbuilt in me. And as I look back now, I realize that I built a strong foundation during the student life to start my career in cybersecurity. I always wanted to grow in a field which is exciting and challenging every single day, where I could harness that knowledge that I had built over time. Now, there is no one day which is same here in cybersecurity, and hence why I enjoy my life as a cybersecurity professional, and that's my passion. Now, how did I plan this journey? My journey also started with planning, organizing my schedule, my months, and dividing my learning into parts. So back then, there was no professional mentorship support when I had started. I needed to find my feet on my own. I started with very basics, that is, researching about the courses that were required to build those foundational knowledge in cybersecurity. And as you know, as a student or a professional, if you're transitioning into a new field, you have to find the resources through Google. And we consider Google as our best friend, but our best friends, sometimes our best enemies as well. Well, jokes apart, why I say that? Because Google is full of informational resources, and it's hard to find that particular resource which you will follow, right? So I started to I started realizing that as I was researching it online, I had to reach out to, connect with cyber professionals to see how did they follow this path, and what worked for them, which resources helped them. So I attended cybersecurity conferences and various other IT tech meetup groups that helped me develop an understanding about what's involved and needed of me to get my bearings right within the industry. Now, again, one story talking about conferences. I still remember going to one of the Women in Tech meetup groups where I met Laura Bell, founder of Safe Stack Academy based in New Zealand. So, those who are listening from New Zealand would be, and from cyberspace, would know her. She explained so well that there are so many people who want to break into this field, security, but there are so less who would like to build. And I was quite influenced by her talk, and that really was an eye opener for me. It was then I discovered that why defensive side of security is so much in demand. I learned from her experience that there is no easy way in, and I absolutely needed to master those basic skills, starting from the very bottom, very fundamentals. That is, learning about Windows operating system and how the devices connect to the internet and the World Wide Web. So I started to make notes and revisited them every alternate day to the point when learning was embedded in my head. I also made some flashcards, and if you could see on the picture on the left of me, or maybe your right, there are some picture of flashcards with ports and services, and I still have that notebook with me and memorize them while my commute to work. My day started at 5 a.m. with reading and listening to networking fundamentals, or sometimes brushing on security terminology. I harnessed that learning to help customers in the customer support role. So soon I started getting requests from my peers to assist them with the more complex technical issues and help lead to the right solution. So while I was enjoying this attention of being recognized, I also knew at the back of my mind that I had to stay focused on my goal each day. I started looking for a junior security analyst position after then, and kept working on my skills as the job demands. With the hard work, I confidently applied for a role and got shortlisted through to the final round, and the rest is history. Well, I think understanding comes from learning, and we all learn from different resources. So, let's see what additional skills helped me achieve the goal of becoming a cybersecurity analyst. Uh, as a person, I think self motivation and staying focused played an important role throughout the journey of becoming. I started with watching training videos by Professor Messer, which included range of topics such as network and security fundamentals, followed by related videos from CBT Nuggets. And there are millions of resources on the internet, but you need to identify what is your learning style. For example, my learning style is that I like to practice through labs. I'm not a good reader. Like I can't just cram the book, read the book and understand it. I need to understand the concepts practically applying to those. So I had to build my own lab. So again, a small short story about me. I think, failures always lead to success and they teach you something or the other. So few years ago, I got interviewed for a system engineer role, and I couldn't make it to the final rounds of the interview as I lacked that fundamental knowledge. A simple example. So they asked a question: how do you create a simple auto run task in the Windows machine? So instead of letting that emotional side of me kick in and thinking that, oh, I didn't know the answer, I'm not meant for it, I took this experience as a challenge and set myself a timeline of 6 months. So I broke it into first 3 months of simply learning what are the moving parts of the network, significance of having a certain device in your home network, and the remaining time I dedicated towards learning more about cybersecurity terminology and how they play a role hand in hand with the moving parts in the network. So, the devices in the network, how they play a role. An example would be, how do you read the packets on the network in your house lab setup? After 6 months, I was lucky enough to get an opportunity to apply for the same role as a system engineer. And guess what? I got selected. Well, now that point of me telling you a story here is know yourself, know what are the skills that you have, and then understand what you need to build upon. So I think there is no X or Y path to train yourself as you know yourself better. And the most important skill the that one can have is curiosity and determination. If you have that inquisitive mind and the ability to learn every day, then you are definitely on the right track. And I'm often asked these questions like, where do I start learning? Which tools are required to know? What are the resources that are better? And this is absolutely normal. Even when I started, I used to ask these questions. And the answer is there is no one go to resource where you can find everything. But I'll share what had helped me to go through the interviews. So I completed my CompTIA Network Plus for understanding the basics of networking, then did my Security Plus to have that basic acron- ac- acronyms in security, and also to understand the fundamental concepts like through the latest news, through SANS Weekly News, dark reading, hacker news. Well, that helped me keep abreast of the new cyber trends as well as any recent cybersecurity breaches. And to get on hands-on experience on labs, I had my own small home lab setup with the virtual box, with the different VMs like Windows, Linux, and Ubuntu. And I used to play around with lots of command line interface on Linux, I remember, and having Wireshark on one of the VMs. So I used to do lots of on hands lab experience with Cybrary. So yeah, that helped me a lot. Now, this quote I truly believe that relates to my journey so accurately. I succeeded to my career objective by focusing on my goal and by setting small, achievable, realistic goals for myself. Well, it doesn't matter if you have less less experience or no experience at all, you will get to where you want to go if you have the right attitude and determination. There are many things that don't work as planned. I have gone through it, and you may face challenges while starting at something new. But the best part is what you create for yourself will always be remembered by you only. So I hope you feel motivated and inspired reading this quote as I did. Now let's have a deep dive into what SOC is, what are its components. Now, let's start with who is a security analyst. Well, I'm a security analyst and I look at myself and see myself wearing many hats, such as of a detective or sometimes as of a police officer. So, take, for instance, a police officer investigating an incident where an abandoned bag was found on the airport. The officer would try to find out more information about the bag without touching it and would scan it, also, probably look at the cameras in the area to find any evidence. Now, do you think would the police officer respond to the incident straight away by calling an investigation squad or verify first if that is a threat to the public? Well, a good analyst will always try to verify first if the event has occurred or not, or it's just a false alarm. You may find yourself as an analyst diving deep into an incident and may fall into a rabbit hole. Similarly, an analyst would try to find out the patterns that stand out of the ordinary, that are different from a normal pattern, in order to find a suspicious activity. Well, a security analyst is a first point of contact when an incident or event happens. Now, event and incident are two different things. An event can be, flagging an email, a suspicious email, but an incident will be when someone clicks on the phishing link that may result into various other outcomes like downloading a piece of malware or someone entering their credentials would be considered an incident. Now, security analysts, what how does he check where to go, where to find that information? There are so many machines and computers, servers in an enterprise. There are hundreds of logs, thousands of logs coming in. And the analyst has to go through various different logs in order to find those footprints or to track the movement of the suspicious entity. So you put the hat of the cyber detective or cyber officer and search for the evidence in those logs, correlate the information that you receive from the different tools, and that is what the security analyst does. Now, security analyst needs a tool set to work with. I have put some tools here, but it is not limited to these tools. Um, there are so many vendors for each of these tools, and we'll discuss about some of these tools here, which are, first one is the, let's say, EDR tool. So as the name suggests, it's endpoint detection and response tool. Now let's take an example for this one. Suppose a suspicious command is being run by an application on the machine, and that is detected by the EDR. So the SOC analyst will not only look at the SIM, but will also look at the other detection tools like this one for a faster response. The EDR tool can be used for blacklisting a hash or removing a machine from the network, or even removing a file from the machine. Now, what is a SIM? Like, SIM is a go-to tool for a SOC analyst. It's a central place for us to find information about a machine, IP, user, network traffic, to correlate these events and combine these bits and pieces together. Now, as I said before, that the enterprise has so many devices like your Windows machine, Linux machines, servers, virtual machines, and they're all sending logs. These logs help to find the data related to an event. However, if you think about it, looking at logging on each and every device is not possible, as there are thousands of logs to go through. Now, let's say an analyst needs to find an information about a user's machine. To make it more easy, the security researchers and the subject matter experts came up with this idea of having a single source of information, like a central place where you can find the details of the item that is present in your store. Now, let's take a hypothetical example of a user, Alex, visiting a suspicious website. And the analyst goes to this Google search bar, that is the SIM, and types in the username Alex with the IP that was assigned to that machine at the given time. This gives the analyst that information about the traffic that was going through from the user's machine. And based on that information, the analyst checks whether the user was browsing on a website that had a suspicious URL, or if the user was using streaming media, or if the user had downloaded a file containing that suspicious domain, or it could be that domain was generated because of clicking on any ad heavy website. So if we didn't have a SIM in place, the analyst would have to go through thousands of proxy logs, dozens of DNS logs on the machine, and then see what was happening on the machine. And there comes SIM, which is a go-to tool, as I said, for the SOC analyst. It can fetch data from all the devices for you in the network and then correlate that information and present it in a more user-friendly way. Now, we have tools for email protection like Microsoft Defender, Forcepoint, Proofpoint. It gives you control and awareness over your email network. There are tools for firewall management, tools like Palo Alto, Forcepoint, etc. Then there are some tools for identity management as well. They help to identify and confirm users, applications, and devices on your network in the enterprise. For example, Microsoft Azure, CyberArk, and so many more. Now, a SOC analyst works with many other tools. We will discuss about OSINT tools and the SOAR tools, which are also go-to tools and must-have. So the OSINT tools are the open source tools, like you have VirusTotal, URL Scan, Alien Vault, that gives you threat intel about an IP or a domain, and also you can check with the URL scan without even going to the website. It's screenshot. It gives you the picture of the website without even visiting to the website. So yeah, these open source intelligence tools are freely available, so you can go ahead and look for them. Then there is a SOAR tool, which is security orchestration, automation, and response tool. And it is used to automate these processes to help do faster response, like blocking the IP or a domain on an analyst click of a button. So it has become easier with these tools to automate those often repetitive tasks, and also to get rid of those false alarms. For example, with the help of SOAR, an analyst can run a scan on the machine and fetch the results from the agent installed on the machine. So SOAR tool uses the playbooks to make decisions. Those playbooks are like steps of instructions, and it's like an algorithm. So you have step-by-step processes there, and it just has that playbook at the back end running to make those decisions. These are some of the tools that are used by a SOC analyst, but they may change very rapidly. Now, a day in the life of SOC. So, what does it look like? We have seen in the pictures that there are boards, there are people sitting behind their desktops, laptops, but what actually happens in a SOC? So, a day would start with the handover from different location or a team. So, if you're working in the follow the sun model, starting your day at 9 a.m., start monitoring the boards. Yes, so these big screens on the walls are called boards. And we log into these tools that we have that as I discussed before. We log into these screens and start monitoring the alerts as they come in, then triaging these alerts based on their priority. So let's take an hypothetical example of the phishing case, where a SOC analyst receives an alert and the analyst checks that the email has been compromised. At the same time, there is another alert that comes in for scanning activity. So, what do you think? Which one is would be a high priority? Well, definitely the email that has been compromised, right? Because if it has not been responded, it can lead an attacker to move in your network or even launch a command and control action on the user's machine. Let's take another example. So let's assume you were sitting on a computer and you left your machine open and went to get a coffee. While you're doing that, there is a person keeping an eye on you at the same place and takes that opportunity to download a malicious file on your machine. You are unaware of the whole situation, and the analyst gets an alert for a suspicious file getting installed. So, what are the things that an analyst start looking at? Where does that analogy lie, do you think? Where will you start? I would like to see some answers in the window, chat window, but we'll discuss what are the sort of different courses of action that you can take here. So one of the analysts looking at the alert will look at the timestamp and see what's happening with your machine then. What sort of file was it? And will start thinking on the lines that where did it come from? What was the source? And once they find that there was a device mounted on your machine at so and so time, they will start questioning or asking, were you using any with the user basically? So, was the user using any external drive? Was there any device plugged in the machine? And try to ask these questions with the user, then coming to any conclusion after that. Each analyst may work differently and may come to a conclusion in a different number of ways. So there is no right or wrong way to do so. It's just finding the right pieces and then connecting them all together. And then questioning yourself if that could be related to this incident, if it is a relevant piece or not. So you can reorder these steps in any way you like, but these steps will define your next course of action. Well, I like this slide a lot, a day in the life of SOC in reality. And you may have watched this movie, Home Alone, where this little kid, Kevin, is at home alone during the Christmas time and his family is gone for a holiday. He's trying to save his house of these robbers, trying to rob his house, and he used all his tools and tactics to save his home getting burgled. So yeah, during that time when there is high priority incident, we all SOC analysts become Kevin, that little boy who use all their tools and tactics to protect our enterprise. Well, that's how I perceive it. We are all well trained and can handle the situation. Now, coming back from the story of Kevin, Let's take a look at a high level. Security operations has different teams that work closely together to identify, analyze, mitigate, and resolve these security events and incidents. There are various teams in the SOC, such as security analysts, incident responders, incident management team, threat hunting team, network security, and there are so many other teams that we collaborate with. Now, the SOC serves as the front line of defense for security monitoring, investigations, threat detection, and incident response. So, this picture here shows SpongeBob's, that is us security analysts fighting fire during that time. And sometimes as the incidents happen, the SOC room turns into the war room. So the fighting fire is not actually fire in the building, is just that moment or that incident that we are actively engaged in. And we call it as a firefighter incident, as we are trying to put of the fire by putting the pieces or the breadcrumbs from the incident together, and we know that the situation is under control. We have all the support, we have all the tools, techniques, we are well trained, all is under control, but we are all engaged so actively with that one incident, while other SOC analysts help monitoring all the other alerts that are coming through and triaging them as well. This incident is being investigated and worked on by the rest of the team members in the SOC. That means we have full coverage of the security incidents. Now, when this happens, all hands are on deck. We are sitting there on our laptops or desktops working on it all day till we find all of the information required and till we reach a safe harbor. These type of days are the most engaging as we as a team try to throw different ideas at each other and collaborate together to find a solution. That is the time that our coffee machine makes the most noise. And I'm sure most of the cybersecurity professionals can relate to me on this, that we look as a caffeinated zombies working on the laptop with the eyes wide open, not so healthy, I'm sure. But yeah, these are one of the days, but we take our time offs, we take our intervals, breaks between those times. So nothing like that. It's just some jokes here. We have morning, afternoon, and evening sprints that decide the flow of response and action. There is a clearly written report of the event with the details of the incident and the summary of the next steps. So we make sure as a team that we contribute to this activity and to this report at all times while doing our routine BAU work. So now that we have talked a lot about good, bad, and some firefighting days at SOC, let's take a look at some of the threats that SOC engages with. Now, there's so many threats that the SOC worries about, like data loss, social engineering, insider threat, malware, rootkit, Trojan, hackers, spyware. But the phishing, according to the data breach report from Verizon, 80% of reported incidents is phishing. And the end goal is often to convince the users to install the malware. So let's look at phishing example and learn how to identify if it is a phishing email or not with a short but very informative video from Microsoft.
Phishing is a way crooks try to bait you into giving up your personal or financial information. When you see an email that seems a little fishy, you can sniff it out. Let's look at some of the common features of phishing. There's a sense of urgency. Something is going to be canceled, money is due, or maybe there's a reward, and it's imperative that you act right now. Although it may say it's from a company you know, look carefully. That email address certainly doesn't look right. There's a lot of bad email out there. Major email providers filter and block dozens a day before they reach your inbox, but still some get through. That's one reason phishing emails may look sloppy with bad grammar or strange formatting. They're trying to get through the filters. Some phishing emails will include an attachment. Never open attachments you weren't expecting, even if they appear to be from somebody you know and trust. If you receive a surprise attachment, reach out to them. Confirm the attachment is legitimate before you open it. The same is true for links in email. If you mouse over one, you can see where the link is going. That looks fishy. Instead of clicking the email link, it's safer to go to the company homepage through your browser. So, what should you do? Reporting it will help block other attacks like this and should move the email out of your inbox. If not, you know what to do. Delete it.
Now, how the SOC views threats? I'm sure with the phishing video, you might have learned something new, how to learn about whether the email is phishing or not, and what to do with it. Now, moving on, how the SOC views these threats. There are 7 phases of cyber kill chain, which was developed by Lockheed Martin to understand the stages of an attack that helps to plan the tactics to prevent and detect malicious intruders. A cyber kill chain helps prepare for all common online threats. And let's take an example of phishing case and see how it can be mapped to the cyber kill chain. And it's a very important cyber kill chain stages that we use as a SOC analyst to identify where the intruder might be, So the initial phase includes reconnaissance, where the attacker gains the necessary information about the company, like name, employee lists, email addresses, etc. Through the publicly available information. Next is the weaponization phase. In the weaponization phase, the attacker would craft an email with malicious links or files that is capable of exploiting a weakness in the system. The third phase would be delivery phase. That is, the email is sent by the attacker to the employee of the company. Now, once the user clicks on that link or downloads the file on the system, the malware gets installed on the system. And once the malware gets executed on the victim's machine, the attacker then moves laterally in the network and exploits the weakness of the targeted system. Now that is the installation phase. After that, we'll move to the command and control, where the attacker gets access of the system. It establishes persistence and controls the system remotely. And in the last phase, the attacker then completes its objectives, which ranges from data theft to file encryption, etc. Now, why SOC is a great starting point for anyone coming from any background. And I think as you get exposed to a lot of different skills being in SOC, there can be a day in the SOC that you might be analyzing a malware in the sandbox, or also maybe reverse engineering it. Someday, you might be collecting and imaging a digital evidence and then analyzing it using digital forensic tools. The other day, you might be threat hunting for any new emerging threats. Or there might be a day that you might be engineering a solution that is creating rules and tuning them. Therefore, SOC analyst gets exposed to a wide range of skills, and you can grow into any role that you want. For example, a malware analyst, a threat intel engineer, a product security engineer, a digital forensic analyst. Now, recently, I was just listening to a podcast by Cybersecurity Magazine, Cybersecurity Ventures, and they had listed these 50 or more roles that you can grow into or you can have in cybersecurity. Must go and have a look with just 50 titles in cybersecurity. You can also become a great red teamer. So having that defensive mindset and also having those understanding of the attack techniques can help you go unnoticed by the defender. So you can become a great red teamer as well. In fact, many of my friends have grown from a SOC analyst to a red teamer. I'm training towards, for me, I'm training towards becoming a security incident manager. So I'm training towards that role. And thanks to my mentors and Workday for giving me that opportunity to grow my skills within that space. I learn a lot from the team of security incident managers and how they lead the meetings and engage with different stakeholders within the enterprise while working on an incident. While working as a SOC analyst, you are exposed to so many opportunities to learn and further your skills through on job training or through certifications. To name a few, there are like SAN certifications, there are cloud certifications through Microsoft or AWS that you can, have and learn from, and many more. Now, what are the skills required to get into SOC? And yeah, definitely, you would require some technical skills as well as non-technical skills. So talking about some of these skills here are coding. Basic understanding of how the code works should be good to have. So taking any coding language that interests you, probably Python or PHP or any other languages, try to make small scripts or small programs using the code, and that could give you that basic understanding. Then systems, learn how to administer Linux using command line interface as opposed to graphical user interface. Learning how to use the Linux systems command line would be an extremely powerful skill. Learning about the PowerShell scripting would be an extremely great skill to have, that will help you no matter what path you take. Networking skill. Well, learning how a network works is an invaluable skill. Like you don't realize it, but we all have a network at home. Think of all the devices connecting to your home Wi-Fi network. And I can't emphasize enough that this is a great free lab setup in your home network. Reading the traffic to and fro from your devices and then decoding them can give you enough knowledge about how the traffic and the devices work. You can use Wireshark, VirtualBox with Linux VM or Windows VM, and there you go. A SOC analyst should have the fundamental understanding of information technologies, including networks and communication protocols, but should not be limited to, because security is a wide set of skills. So yeah, you can have a range of skills that you can bring in. Then non-technical skills, collaboration. So you need to collaborate with different teams constantly, and you need to have these sort of skills as well. You need to have critical thinking, that is to think outside of the proverbial box. So thinking out of the scope, like why, how, what, an inquisitive mindset, that curiosity of asking questions at every step, to interrogate and to build a picture of what might have happened, why it might have happened, what is missing, where to look for additional information. So, in general, the process flow. So, the basic approach here would be makes you a great detective or a great SOC analyst, and also the passion towards this field, as you might need to quickly adopt to a new tool, as the tools we use in SOC can change so rapidly. Now, I just wanted to show you some statistics here, like skill shortage in cybersecurity is growing, and given the new research by ISC Square places the global cybersecurity skill shortage to an estimate at just under 3 million to 2.93 million to be exact. And Asia Pacific, with its growing economies and new privacy regulation, is experiencing the biggest shortage of approximately 2.14 million positions. Now, the data provided here gives us a clear insight that we have growing number of cybersecurity positions because of the ever increasing cyber attacks. The highly skilled jobs, such as that of information security analysts in the market, currently remain unfilled. Now, a very famous quote from my boss, Jaco Dudehoit, and he makes sure that we practice, that we preach. And you might have heard of this quote as well. The attacker only needs to be right once, but defenders must be right all the time. Their greatest advantage is our greatest challenge. Well, the author is different, but he usually quotes this to us, and therefore we investigate each and every alert with suspicion. We make sure that zero trust is not only embedded in the security model, but also in our investigations. So we only trust that we can prove, and what we can see. Now, we are humans, right? We make mistakes, it's inevitable, but then learning from them is also very important. As a SOC analyst, if you're not 100% right about something, you should get it peer reviewed, take a second opinion, or ask your boss. So that's called defense in depth in security terminology, as it is better to be safe than sorry. Now, moving on to the last part of the webinar session today would be the lessons learned. So there are some challenges that we face as women in security, as it's really overwhelming entering into this fast-paced, dynamic environment, but with it may come this unsettling feeling of self-doubt, feeling of questioning your own abilities. And when I look back at a time in my life where, while I was entering the IT industry, there was mixed feedback from my friends and a group of people about entering into a very competitive industry. There was a small group that started judging me on how I transitioned from being a banker into information technology and then into cybersecurity, and that I didn't have any set of formal education in the cybersecurity field. Now, as a woman, as a minority, millennial, I kept questioning myself. Will I be accepted by others in this field? Will they get to know that I am not that what I say I am? That I am an imposter. In essence, I could hear these words resonating in my ear, loud and clear. I felt these words and I turned numb. I knew I had worked hard and the journey wasn't easy. It started to affect my work, and I resisted putting ideas across the table, thinking that it will not be heard. I tried to find out ways to divert my attention by training and certifications and feeling like I'm not skilled enough. But perhaps I was unsettled inside and I turned silent. It was only then I started going to a small tech meetup group that I felt that I wasn't alone. There are of others who had gone through the similar situation. And it took me a while to gain my strength back and to suppress that feeling of self doubt. The more I spoke about my feelings with others in the same space, the more I felt comfortable. And I could hear these words of encouragement. I knew I had to be fierce. I had to regain my confidence. I, and I need to be persistent with my learning. it was up to me now to give more importance to what other people thought about me or my unconventional background, or just listen to what I think of myself and be the best I can be. I have come this far in the cybersecurity industry, and I feel empowered that the opportunities that I've got today would not have been possible if I listened to those negative voices. I feel inspired and thankful to the people who supported me through this journey. I have found my voice through mentoring others and creating a group of like minded individuals that help support each other and also lead the cybersecurity industry by example. I just want to say thank you to those that supported me, and I'm grateful to those who have inspired me. Just a reminder for everyone, for each one of us, to be humble, be kind, and show empathy to everyone around you. Now, with some challenges, there is a time that you get opportunities to lift yourself up. And those are the times that are times for learning for you. And I'd like to discuss about work-life balance. So I get often asked by everyone that how do I manage with work and family commitments? Especially when you're a woman, people may still assume that your primary role is to take the burden of household and family responsibilities, and the career always takes a backseat. I can't emphasize enough that how my husband supports me and makes it a shared responsibility for both of us to look after the children as well as help me with doing the day to day tasks at home. It can be sometime become really challenging for me when at work it gets busy than usual and you need to get the children from school or juggle around with other responsibilities. But these times help you grow as an individual, as a wife, and my husband actively takes the charge at home so that I can focus on my work. And here's an example of the time when I had to complete my SAN certification with my full time job as a professional. And as a mother of a 16-month-old baby with a 6-year-old kid as well, it was a very daunting task for me to study at night or at the weekends. But he made sure that I could concentrate on my studies during that month and didn't have to worry about house or kids. I feel that I'm so fortunate that he understands and values my aspirations towards my career and always supports me in my decisions. At the same time, when I'm at work, my team and my people leader make sure that I'm comfortable and not missing on those first moments of my baby or those exciting school events of my daughter. Especially during the past year of pandemic time when my kids were at home, they used to be part of many meetings, and the workmates and my workmates were so welcoming and comfortable having the children around. I feel being who you are or being your own self, bringing your own self at work is so important. My people leader makes sure that I am well supported when looking after my family and also discusses my career path and guides me in achieving those goals. I feel more confident than before because of the trust that my team and my people leader shows in me and the opportunities that I get to grow, not only as a professional, but as an individual. Now, I'd like to all of you to read this quote with me, which is focus on the journey, not the destination. Joy is found not in finishing an activity, but in doing it. I'd like to see your comments and your feedback on what you take away from this quote. Thank you so much, and I'll open this up for the question and answer round. And thank you, everyone. Special thanks to Lynn for giving me this opportunity, Rachel. Jen, Missy, Yako, and my sister Aisha. Thank you so much. So I'll open it up for the questions now. Just have a look. So how is threat intel related to SOC team? Well, threat intel is related to SOC team because you have all the IPs coming in, all the logs coming in, and you have to find out information about that. So yes, threat intel is directly related to SOC. Without threat intel, without knowing what you're looking for, you won't be able to find out the next piece, right? So that is how it is related to SOC directly. Do you have any tips or advice for someone learning how to use a SIM for the first time? Well, the only advice, and I have also linked a resource in the chat window or the announcement window where it is linked for cyber defenders. So it is a very good tool that you can use and go to. A cyber defender is a lab wherein there is a SOC challenge where you can go in there and test your skills and learn from those tools that are there on that cyber defender link. What is your advice about getting promoted in a SOC as a woman? Well, it's a very nice question, and I can definitely relate to it. For getting promoted in a SOC as a woman, I think many of us struggle and have to push ourselves more than our male counterparts. And I completely understand it, but I think if you have the right sort of motivation, determination, and willing to beat beat it no matter what, you can do it. So creating opportunity for your own self, learning what you learning your understanding about your own self, what you need to do, what is required of your function is so important. So if you're doing it in a better way, then no matter what, you will get an opportunity to get promotion. So there is another question. How has the pandemic and work from home changed your ways of working? Well, it certainly has changed a lot. Now I can, as I said during the meeting, sometimes my kids are with me, and I have to like manage my work schedule with having my kids, juggling between their activities and like taking different responsibilities at home as well. So it has certainly changed with the management of time. uh, but yes, it just comes naturally with the support of the team, support of my manager, support at home. I am able to manage it. So yeah, it certainly has changed a lot, but we are getting there. In New Zealand, it's still better because we get to go to the office. We can work from home or either go to the office now, and I can leave my children to the daycare or to the school. So yeah, pretty much flexible with workday, especially because we don't have to be like fully at the office, or we there is no specifics related to it. Now, how do you find your peers treat a female SOC manager? Well, I didn't have a female SOC manager, so I really can't say about it. But I do have an incident manager whom I closely work with, and I feel that, uh, and in her team, they're all males, and I feel that she's well supported by the management, and they respect her so well. So at Workday, even if you're a female or male, you are equally valued. And that is the best part working in Workday. Also, how do you find work-life balance being new to the field and having